Hey you guys, Indy here with Ultimate Tool Reviews. And when I bought my first house, I had a few things that I needed to do, like, fill up the car tires, like put on some trim baseboards and things like that. Maybe also do a few tire rotations as well too. Now the three tools behind me can all accomplish those tasks. However though, there's two ways to power those tools. You of course have pneumatic, which is of course, compressed air. Air compressors have been around for far longer than of course a lot of battery powered tools have. But battery powered tools are now taking quite a market share of some of those types of tools now. Now this video isn't necessarily for the pro user, not talking about mechanic shop or someone who's doing a ton of nailing like roofing or anything like that per se. But I really want to talk to people who are maybe buying a house for the first time or got to do some small scale projects. And this is kind of the same thing I went through about a year or so ago, was which tools should I buy when it comes to filling up a car tire, taking tires off your car, or even just putting in some baseboards, maybe some trim, maybe fixing a fence. You're going to need of course a nailer, and they come in many options when it comes to brands. But you've pretty much got two options to choose from when it comes to either going pneumatic with air or going battery that's cordless. So let's start here with the Dewalt. Now this is probably the one tool that kind of drove me away from my old air compressor. I bought a Porter cable air compressor, bought a nice line of cable for it, or tubing for it, or air line for it, and I had an extension cord. So whenever I go fill up my tires, I've got a a 3/4 ton truck for my wife's SUV. Also got a trailer with 2 tires on it. So I'm filling up 10 tires every once in a while, just topping them off, making sure to check the PSI on all the tires. And it was kind of a hassle, I found, when I had to pull the extension cord out, and I gotta pull the air hose out, fire the air compressor up, and get that air compressor up to 60, 70 PSI, so I can fill the tires up to 40 PSI. And that compressor is loud, takes up a lot of space, and it's just kind of annoying. But I'm not saying it's not necessarily the wrong option to choose, but there are cordless options now that can fill up car tires. And of course, that's going to be maybe an easier option for some. If you're filling up with, larger tires, like maybe like an RV, this might not be the option for you. You might want to go with a larger air compressor, or even just, maybe use the ones at, gas stations, things like that. They're going to give you a bigger supply of air that can fill the tires up much faster. I will say, this Dewalt compressor works fantastic on, say, my trailer tires, my wife's SUV. My 3/4 ton truck likes to run the tires around 60, 70 PSI. If I come from maybe 40 PSI, went up to 70 PSI, I can easily go through 2 batteries with this compressor, getting my tires up to that required 60, 70 PSI in that range. So I will say there is some downsides to using, a battery-powered air compressor like that. However, though, this thing does have some cool features, and the fact that it is battery-powered, but it also has a high-volume, low-pressure side for basically filling up things like, pool floaties. It's got a few other cool things to it that I like. Say you run out of battery power, or you forgot the battery entirely. Well, on this side, it's actually got a little compartment here that has a cigarette lighter adapter. So, let's say maybe you got your Jeep or you're off-roading in your truck, and you air your tires down. You can air them back up decently quickly with this, on the go, without really any other tools that you need. Your power supply is just going to be the cigarette lighter in your Jeep or your truck, your SUV. Pretty easy to do that. So you've got some options now when it comes to, of course, filling your tires back up with an air compressor that, other than bringing a pancake air compressor or the hot dog style one, there are other options out there that are going to be decently priced. Now I will say, when it comes to pricing, I think these go for like around $120 to $150 in that retail range. Of course, it's pretty easy to pick up a compressor now and be able to get one pretty cheap as well too. What you gotta remember though is that you do need things like extension cables, you do need an air hose as well. You're gonna maybe need a few adapters to go along with that. So if we move on to things like a impact wrench, this is pretty universally going to cordless now. There are some mechanic shops that still use air lines for these, but when it comes to these, it's pretty easy to go cordless. There are very few scenarios when I recommend to go to the air side on these, but it's pretty much all cordless now. Now the big one that kind of made this video entirely for was going to be cordless nailers. If you look at at Lowe's and you maybe see some of those Craftsman deals, Craftsman always has this deal popping up where you buy one of their pancake compressors and you get like a pin nailer and a brad nailer with it, and it's relatively cheap. I'm pretty sure it's like $220 or under. It's pretty cheap for what you get. Now, probably the biggest thing when it comes to nailers is that it's going to be quite competitive. I'd almost say it's very neck and neck when it comes to, you know, going with air nailers versus cordless nailers. And it's kind of all dependent on your preference. So once you buy an air compressor, the nailers are actually relatively cheap. You can buy the new like Metabo ones at Lowe's or the Craftsman ones at Lowe's for under like 60 bucks. You can buy the pin nailer, the brad nailer, the finish nailers, even the roofing nailers are not terribly priced that are, you know, going to be that require an air compressor. However, though, the cordless nailers, of course, are going to be more expensive. They're going to be a bit more heavy, and of course, they're going to require you to have a battery attached as well, too. But the one big pro to that is that you're not dragging out an air compressor, you're not dragging out the air hose, you're not dragging out a extension cord. Now, I will say before everyone mentions in the comments, they do make air compressors that run off batteries as well, too. Now, I believe Milwaukee and Metabo make one. I'm not sure of any other brands that make one right now. But they do have cordless ones, so if you were, say, you know, fixing your fence in the backyard, you could throw a battery in the air compressor, walk out to your backyard with the compressor, your air hose, and your nailer, and just go to town there fixing whatever you need to fix. So it's very neck and neck when it comes to those. Kind of going to be almost maybe on your preference a little bit. I do know that the air nailers last a lot longer than these battery-powered nailers. My dad has a couple of the older Metabos, or I believe they're called Hitachis at the time, and he's done a few services on those, and they just work fantastic still. So that's going to be one thing you're going to look for. It might be more of a value versus convenience thing when it comes to air versus battery-powered nailers. Whereas your cordless battery-powered nailers are going to be much more convenient. However, you're going to trade expense, maybe some reliability, as well as, you know, maybe having to replace those a bit more often than your air nailers. So guys, let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious what some more of like pros use for nailers. I've done some research on this topic before I did this video, and I was really looking to see, you know, when I'm on a job site, I do see a lot of guys still using air, but then again, I do see a lot of guys using the Milwaukee and the Metabo nailers for things like, you know, putting on baseboards, not to say for framing. I know, like, if you look at the tools and stuff videos, he uses a lot of the Metabo nailers, or I think they're called Hikoki over there, for doing like framing jobs as well. Also, a lot of the finished nailers he uses are cordless as well too. So lots of cool stuff you can find out when you do a lot of research into these different types of, you know, going air versus cordless. It's a really interesting kind of thing. I'm trying to do a little more research in this, but I'm really curious as to what you guys think. Are you guys still using, you know, air nailers? Are you guys still using cordless nailers? You know, there's things that you take into consideration, of course, like reliability, how smooth they put those nails in, the quality of the work they do, as well as, you know, overall reliability. I see a lot of air nailers that last quite a while. Not necessarily, that's not what I'm saying about cordless nailers, but, you know, with cordless nailers, I do see them upgrading a lot. I know the Milwaukee Gen 1 brad nailer had some issues. I know the Gen 1 of the Metabo was kind of bulky, although that we're on the Gen 2s now with Metabo and Milwaukee, and hearing a lot of good stuff about those. I've got both the Gen 2 Metabo and the Gen 2 Milwaukee. I'm pretty happy with them so far. I will say though, you do trade some size and weight when it comes to the air nailers. It's not really a big deal for me with cordless. I pretty much just use mine at home. I would say I'm just the, you know, the regular home user when I use my cordless nailers. But, you know, on job sites, it's kind of, I've met guys that like both, so I'm not really sure what to say there exactly when it comes to which one to pick from. But, you know, if you're just a home user as well, it's going to be kind of tough to choose which one you want to do. If you want to have an air compressor, you know, fill your tires up, also do some nailing projects, that's going to be totally fine. But I will say, if you do have a battery platform, like say maybe Dewalt or Craftsman, some of the Metabo stuff as well too, they're going to be an excellent choice as well. So I'm not going to say, you know, go either or, but you're definitely going to have to pick between, do you want, you know, lighter weight, do you want a little more value, reliability, or do you want to just go with a more convenient package by just going with a battery operated system? So guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think, what you guys are going for, either air or cordless. And I might make another second video on this as well too, with some more of your thoughts as well. So take care guys, and have a great weekend.